in the clinical trial process. I'm not saying that the pill is bad. I just want you to think about how to make health decisions for yourself. You want to be especially vigilant, especially staying on top of it. Once I got the information I needed, I started to move in that direction about how to make health decisions for yourself.
In your mind, what would you say to brothers that's not vaccinated or just people in general?
I'm glad to hear you are protected, and thanks for being so honest here on Keeping It 100, because that's what we do. Hello, Hi, everybody. Welcome to Keeping It 100, where we have these open and honest conversations about topics that matter to our community. I just want to make sure that everyone has what they need to make good health decisions. I am your host, Dr. Kristin Motley, and of course, we have a great show in store for you today. Remember, behind the scenes, we have Dr. Tyan Thomas. She is in the chat. She will answer your questions. Make sure that any questions you have about what we talk about, she will answer them and provide you with facts behind that. So give her some love in the chat. Let's bring in my wonderful, amazing co-host, George Mink Jr.
Hey, I still was dancing to the intro.
I know, I'll be like, and then I'll be having to stop, like, hey, welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Motley.
Right. Good afternoon, Doc. How you doing?
What's up? I'm good. How you doing?
I'm all right. You know, we'll do some things. You know how black men stress. So, you know.
You got to put the cape on.
Yeah,
pull it together real quick.
That's all.
Listen, we're having a therapy session today, so you can really let it out today.
Yeah, I could let it out today.
We can let it. Like, we got a licensed therapist on. We get some real help, right on time help. So don't worry.
Right.
But tell me what you've been up to.
Nothing. Still talking to brothers. You know, trying to get on track with their health. Still pumping the COVID vaccination team, and you know, I was fortunate enough. Some brother did call me, say he did get boosted. He said it was
Yes.
And he wasn't as bad as he thought it was going to be.
That's good.
And he talked to one of his friends, so. Two brothers got boosted. I got 2 points this week.
Good job. That is what this work is all about. It's just moving people to make decisions on their own. It's never us trying to force anybody. We just want to make sure that they have information that they may not be getting from anywhere else, so that they can make a health decision that they decide to make. So I'm really, really glad, and I'm proud of you for the work that you're doing out in the streets, having these conversations. I know they're not easy conversations to have, but you're doing it.
Right. And it's getting easier. I mean, the big topic was the stress thing. I mean, you know, we all stress in different ways. We all got different types of stress that we're dealing with, but it's like a personal stress being a black man. And I just been talking to a lot of brothers about the show last week. They was like, they was actually excited about today, the part 2.
Awesome.
And, so yeah, like it's been nice though, Doc. I appreciate the ride.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, we are definitely going to get into that stress talk. Before we do, I just want to remind people that the government is cutting back on funding for vaccines and testing and treatment for COVID. It's going to be pushed off to your insurance plan. So if you do not have insurance and you want to get tested, you want to get the vaccine, it won't be free. So take advantage of these things while it's being covered by the government, because it's not going to last long. If you do have insurance, that may mean that you may pay a small amount. Depending on your plan, you may pay a large amount. It's hard to tell. So I just want to encourage people, if you're thinking about it, please do what you need to do. Pray, meditate, but move in a direction that will allow you to spend the least amount of money as possible on something, because right now you don't have to pay for it. That's going away. I think by January is the last thing I said is by the first of the year, the government is not going to be paying for this stuff anymore. So while the money is out there, please take advantage of it.
Wow.
Because we're going to see those disparities. Like, we know who have the highest number of the percentage of people that are not insured or who don't have enough insurance. It's usually African Americans, Hispanic population. So this is the time for us to take advantage of this, because everybody else, then took advantage of the benefits. So we need to be taking advantage of them too.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to clarify, because I know we joke about this, but this is a really serious matter in terms of me not having a booster yet and my 2-year-old not having a booster, or well, he hasn't been vaccinated yet. So I know George been getting on me about it, and like we joke about it, but it's a serious thing. So I want to be responsible and clarify my reasoning for why I'm not boosted and he's not vaccinated. My last booster was in January. So normally I would have gotten my booster as soon as it dropped. George was just bragging that he got his when it first became available and we not boosted, and he was like stunting on us. I would have gotten mine by now, but I had COVID in July. So when I had COVID in July, that gives me 3 months of pretty good protection. So the CDC says if you had COVID within 3 months, you don't need a booster. You wait until the 3 months. So if you had COVID, you wait 3 months and then you get a booster. It hasn't been my 3 months yet. It's coming up. So it's coming up. So y'all keep an eye on me. It's coming up, but I'm still within my 3-month window. So I'm gonna wait. I ain't trying to get no vaccine early. I don't even really want to get it, but I'm gonna get it because it's the right thing to do to protect me and to protect the community around me. I'm definitely going to get it, but I have a little bit more time. In terms of Noah, he's in the same place. He had COVID when I had COVID because I gave it to him. I don't even want to talk about all the guilt I felt about that. So I know. So he had COVID in July, and so he has a couple more weeks. And when his time is up, I'll be scheduling his appointment to get him a COVID boost. I mean, to get his first dose because he hasn't had a first dose yet. So I just wanted to be responsible. I'm not playing around with this. I'm just following the CDC's guidance and taking advantage of my 3 months of super antibodies. So that's that. So y'all just take advantage of it while it doesn't cost anything, because that is going away. So George,
You cleared it up pretty good. Nah,
I don't think you believe me, but I
know you are, Doc. I mean, but that's what make our conversations honest, though. I mean, that's what I like about our show and how we presenting it to the people. You being honest. I mean, that's the most important thing. We want to be honest, and being honest about your personal situation. I don't think
you appreciate my honesty, George.
I mean,
I know how you talk, but I know how you.
I just feeling it. It just seemed like we switched roles when we first started this thing. You know what I'm talking about? That's all. You like I'm the doctor now, so it's just like But nah, Doc, I get it though. I mean, again, like the importance of it, and you do have to be particular, and you got to be selective. I mean, it's still your child. I mean, he's young. I mean, so you just being an honest mother. You're not just being a doctor. You're also being a mother, and you being cautious, and the severity, and that you definitely know the deep parts of COVID. You know what it does to people. You saw what it did in the beginning, so you're aware of everything, but you're just being selective and reluctant, and that's fine. we got 2 days and 28 minutes. Okay.
Yo, why you throwing out those adjectives? Reluctant. That's funny. Right. I just don't be hopping on stuff like right away, especially stuff like that. I just want to give it its time. So I'm really grateful that I had COVID, and it gave me more time to see what was playing, how everyone else was responding, and so I'm grateful I had it, and I'm grateful that we survived. It wasn't fun getting through it, but I'm taking my 3 months time to decide what to do.
That's fine.
That's all. So just wanted to clarify that. But thanks for being halfway supportive.
I appreciate I'm always there for you, Doc.
I'll take halfway support.
Right. I'm just playing for Bilal, but that's my.
Oh, he said he getting as soon as his 3 months.
Yeah, I know Bilal.
You can do what you want. I'm getting my vaccine. You can do what you want. I was like, hey, you do you. I'm gonna do me.
Yeah. See. Okay.
So let's bring in our therapist of the day, Ryan. Hey, Ryan.
How you doing?
Hey,
good afternoon, sir.
We are going to bring this over to a stress management talk because George be stressing me out, and I just felt like I needed to bring you in so I could take some deep breaths and just bring myself back to center, because he be making me feel bad about the decisions I be making for my family sometimes.
Nah, it's
But
just
it's all out of love. It's
right.
all out of love, and I know that, and I appreciate that. But it don't always feel it. Like I don't always feel it at first. I have to process it, and I'm like, he's acting like that because he really
Yeah,
cares about
of
us.
course, of course, of course, I do. But good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Hey, great, man. Good to see you. Glad you made it back with us 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So what you got, Doc?
So we're just going to keep this conversation moving on. We talked about what are the stressors in Black men, and we started to get into how do we cope with those things. And so I wanted to just open up today's show with another comment that we got from the street, that George got from the street, from a young man who talked about what are some stressors in his life from his perspective. So we could show that video.
All right, what's going on? I'm with Nasir. I just want to ask him, what's the biggest stress of being a Black man?
Hey everybody, I think that the biggest stress of being a Black man is being respected in America today, mainly where you come from. That's the hugest issue that we deal with so far. So I think respect is a big thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, good brother.
Got it.
All right. Yo, I'm a reporter too, but go ahead.
Nah, G, that's you.
So what you think about that, right? I mean, like, does that come, I bet you definitely probably can relate to that. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
definitely can as well.
Yeah. It's a lot of thing we touched on a little bit, but it's a lot of negative narratives when it comes to Black men, where we feel like we have to combat those narratives in certain spaces. And so we can feel disrespected in a number of different situations. And so that could be anything from, combating narrative in our relationship, about Black men, about us as fathers, like people may not even know us, but they already have these assumptions about us and who we are. And so it is hard to feel respected in spaces as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can relate. I mean, we already labeled. So I just feel like when he said respect, it hit like a bell.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like we kind of we already behind the 8 ball, and we feel as though we have to always keep earning it. It's like a everyday process. Like it runs out at the end of the day, and then it starts back low at the next day, and we got to build it back up. So it's like it's not something that's like just stays firm. It's something that we have to keep building and keep growing into. And then what makes it feel bad is that the other people not really even growing their self or not really, going in that direction. And you feel as though that's what you have to do. So it definitely comes with our territory. So, yeah.
I think that one thing that George and I talked about earlier today was stressors that you can control and stressors that you can't control, and the difference between the two and how to navigate that. So, Ryan, in terms of this conversation about respect, to me, that is something that you can't directly control how people respect you or how they show or not show respect towards you. But what we can control is how it makes us feel or how we respond to that. And so I wanted to ask if you had any tips or do you have anything to share about how to address the stressors that we cannot control.
Yeah. So for the stressors that we can't control, in those situations where we feel a bit like powerless, I think it's important to have like one, it's just perspective, right? Like, and so because we can't really do anything about where someone else might be, it's like, who do I want to be in this situation? And so it's not so much about the outcome, it's about identity. And so if we focus more so on who we want to be in this situation, not who people want us to be, but who do we want to be in this situation, then we get a different showing, in terms of who we are and what have you. But if we're focused more on the outcome, meaning like I'm gonna teach this person to respect me, I'm gonna force them to, and that kind of thing, then we kind of play into their hand, and we become the people that they say that we are. We feed the narrative in a way, and so you can't make people respect you, right? But you can show up a certain way, and if you show up that way and you make that focus identity, the principle that comes from a book that's actually around habits, it's called Atomic Habits, where if you focus more on your identity, not on process, not on anything else, but who you want to be in the moment, you ask yourself that question, like, what would a confident person do in this situation? What a person that's not thinking about what people are thinking about them doing this situation, and you show up that way. And as long as you're proud of that person that you were in that moment, that's what matters.
Wow. That's big. It's big. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
How do we get there though? Like, how do we get into that mindset? Like when you are in, especially for a Black male who may be in a stressful situation, and in that moment, how do you even like remember to pull on some tools? Like, how do you, like, what could we do to remind us to pull tools out of the toolbox to, to handle the stress better?
Yeah. Right. So first you want to be aware of your internal process, like your cycle. And one way to do that is, we know that we have a certain feeling coming up by the way it impacts our bodies. So you might pay attention to your body. Like when I'm angry, I can feel heat in my chest, right? And so I know that once I get that heat, that I need to pull on a certain tool. So first you need a cue. You need something that is going to cue you to like pull on a certain tool. And that just comes with a certain level of awareness. It might also be your thought pattern. Like once you have this cycle of thoughts that go through your mind or the racing or what have you, then you want to be aware of that. So some people wear like a rubber band or something on their wrist, and whenever they have a certain thought pattern, they just pop it. It's a way of monitoring those thoughts when they come up, because everything is so automatic, it happens so quickly. You know how people say like one thing happened, then another. Yeah. You want to stop that one thing, then happened, that, and so you want to add in some awareness. One thing happened, I was aware, and I was able to make a different choice. And so paying attention to your body, being aware of those thoughts can help you to figure out like, this is the cue, this is the pattern that I want to interrupt. And then you start pulling in those tools in those moments to attach a cue to a tool. And that's how you are able to make the change.
I like that. So it's just, you have to know your triggers.
Right.
You have to know your triggers. And then once you know your triggers, when that things happen, you're paying attention to it. And that's your cue to pull a tool out the toolbox.
That's right.
Wow.
Right.
I like that process. Yeah. So what are some other triggers? So you said your chest feels hot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking when I feel stressed, or if I'm in a stressful situation, my heart beats fast. Like I know that my heart's racing, or like my stomach hurts. Or I get like the bubble guts. It's just so bad. So that's something that happens for me. What other triggers happen?
Yeah, so there's a number of different like thought patterns that we might have when we feel triggered. And so I'll give you an example of it. You ever had somebody like really make you angry not because you're angry, but they're saying that you're angry in a moment where you're really not angry quite yet? So they assume that you feel a certain way. It's like, oh, you're angry. You're like, no, I'm not angry. It's like, yes, you are. You keep going back, and then you get angry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's like a trigger could be somebody telling you how you feel when that feeling is not really there. They're not exploring how you feel. They're telling you how you feel. They're convinced. Or they're telling you something. They're labeling you, right? Like somebody calls you a liar, you haven't lied. And so when you get labeled in a certain way, like that can be a trigger. But you know that every time that happens, you respond a certain way. Right. And they can lure you in each time, and so that's why we're paying attention to those cues and to those patterns, like you called it triggers. You want to pay attention to it, because if the same thing is happening over and over again, what can be a result of that is people will focus more on your reaction than what actually happened to you. And so your reaction can actually drown out your needs in that moment. Because if you blow up, that's the conversation now. Like, you got angry and you blew up on me. Nobody's tending to the fact that you were labeled or that
all that got missed.
Yep.
Wow. Wow, that's big. I mean, and it's, the thing for me is that the timing, like, so you just never know when it's going to come down on you. So, I mean, and I just know, like, just, just the way certain brothers, the way we like came up, like we not used to processing, we used to reacting.
Right.
So, I mean, this is like a whole new way of life or different lifestyle to be able to process like a robot and just be like, no, like, I mean, it's great for my health because I know, the more you stress and the more you don't use like different defenses to combat it, then I mean, it definitely is detrimental for your health. But as far as like introducing yourself to the new form or the new pattern, like what's the easy way to start? Like what way would I be able to start like working that out? Like say, I mean, I probably definitely would consider therapy, after we start talking, but for things that I can do personally. So say for right now, I'm just starting out. Like I'm just trying to do new things differently. I want to start reacting differently. I'm really not worrying about how people approach me or deal with me, but I'm really worried about myself. Like I'm really worrying about the way I react and the way I can control it, right? So what is like the first thing I would want to start working on right now, like, as far as going forward?
I think the first thing is you would just want to make certain changes.
Mm.
That's really it, is that like you have that motivation and desire to change it, because if it's so immersed in your identity, if it's so attached to your identity, then you're probably saying like, well, that's me and people just need to learn who I am and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. So you don't want to make the change. So I think the first step is actually wanting to make a change. And then the second thing is, in terms of like an actual tool, is you could do a 5-minute, 2-minute mindfulness meditation where you can pay attention to yourself and really just notice things coming up. I know for myself, the first time I did a mindfulness meditation, I could only do it for 30 seconds.
Wow.
I had all these thoughts coming up in my head that I noticed that once I just stopped and did nothing, just flooded my brain. And so I paid attention so much to myself that I realized that, having a lot to do sometimes is avoiding those things.
Right.
And I didn't even realize that until I did a mindfulness meditation. So a lot of us think we're doing it wrong when we're doing it, but if it feels like that, we're probably doing it right, because it's designed to help us feel more present.
Okay. Wow.
I had a quick request and put you on the spot, Ryan. Can you lead us through like a 30-second mindfulness meditation?
Sure.
All right,
Sure.
Let's go.
All right. So, if you're both comfortable, just in your seats, if you are sitting back in your seat, just making sure that your back is fully supported and your feet are on the floor. And if you would just, if you're open to it, closing your eyes. And just want to breathe in through the nose and then let it go through the mouth. Just again, just breathing in through your nose and then let it go through your mouth. Just want you to notice your breathing. Just not really forcing yourself. Just pay attention to your breath as you're breathing normally. We'll just notice that breathing up to count of 10. Don't worry if other thoughts come up. Notice those thoughts and return to your breath. And once again, just taking a deep breath through the nose, just really releasing it with a big breath through the mouth. And when you're ready, you can open up your eyes.
Wow.
I love some deep breaths.
Wow.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I was in Aruba, but it's not.
You always in Aruba. You are always in Aruba.
No, I gotta get there.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about mindfulness. So I think it's something that we don't talk about enough, especially in our community. And so it's a great practice. I know a little bit about it, but Ryan, can you just share a little bit about mindfulness and how it may be helpful, especially for stress management?
Yeah, well, it helps us to be more present. Like we can be more future focused or past focused, and paying attention to your body just for a moment. Just that action of noticing the thoughts and then coming back helps us to stay present. And the more we exercise that muscle, just imagine yourself in any environment and getting distracted and being able to stay focused and coming back and being present helps our concentration. It helps us to be less forgetful as a result, reduces anxiety and depression. And so it has a lot of benefits. It helps us to pay attention to ourselves, so a form of self-love, because we get a chance to really pay attention to ourselves. So it has a lot of benefits, but in particular, it's good for anxiety and depression.
That's great. And it was so easy. Like that quick moment of just being still and just like paying attention to our breath, like he was just having us to just try to focus on our breath, was like really easy. It did not take long at all. And I think if we maybe, try to start our day like that, or try to end our day like that, or pull it whenever we're feeling like we're about to go into a stressful moment, a stressful situation at work, with a partner, a neighbor or anything, like just be able to use that as a tool in the toolbox to pull on before you start a stressful situation or right after it, and you need to bring yourself back down. I just think that deep breaths are so easy and we just don't do it enough. We don't use them enough.
Right.
Yeah, it's a couple of things that can be useful that I haven't mentioned. One is during like a work day, is having restorative breaks. And so it's just a way to manage the stress load. Restorative in the sense that, when you take a break, you actually break. And that like looking at nature can be helpful, going for a walk, listening to music for some people, watching something that's funny, whatever it may be, but it's restorative, something that can give you some energy. So restorative breaks is extremely helpful. Exercise is pretty helpful in terms of reducing anxiety, depression, really helping us to manage stress as well. So those are two things that I forgot to mention that could be pretty helpful.
Wow. And I actually already started that process. Like I have a fish tank. I don't know if you can see it behind me.
Oh yeah.
I use that as a form of like stress relief. I got multiple different kinds of fish in there. It's frogs, it's the water snakes. It's just,
oh snap.
And it's just like a whole world that I basically just block out wherever I'm at and just focus in on their world. And it actually is stress relief. I have some maybe little wine every now and then with it, but
that's awesome.
But as far as like, that's one of my defense mechanisms. I also started like a garden type thing. I water my flowers, and I listen to music at the same time. And that's something that I was doing just personally, just to kind of start my day off. Because we can't avoid stress. Like there's nothing we can do to it's just, the main thing is defending it. And I think that's where a lot of brothers is having issues at, especially something new. We always listen to music, but it might be the mood of the type of music that you're listening to. So it might, you might want to listen to a certain style of music, or think happy thoughts or meditation. Like I actually was doing mindfulness wellness training with Stacy Mandel, and she's an advocate, and she also worked out of Toby Farm school system, and she was actually doing mindful wellness with the students.
That's great.
And she did a whole documentary. I'll have the information for you guys next week. But I actually was practicing some of these things, and it's actually the same way I used to start, but I wasn't consistent. So I think that's a problem for me, like, is being consistent with these things, you know, because now my garden is all over the place. Like, you know, it's getting cold now. So that's not like a one of my remedies is kind of taken away. So, I mean, we kind of go to these places for cover. Like, you know, I know another brother, he goes sit in his car. He said he don't, you know, him and his wife, they always arguing, and he gets peace in the car. And I'm like, what's peaceful about that? And he was like, that's just the way I combat. You know, he smelled his air freshener and he just sit in the car like without music. And I'm just like, okay. But I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Everybody has their own way of processing stress, and it'll be there. As you mentioned, we'll have stress. It's just our way of dealing with it. And one way to deal with stress in a relationship is, or two ways I would suggest is, if you know you're going through a stressful period at work, is to schedule a date, you know, at the end of that period, so that your partner kind of knows what's going on and feels like a priority during that time, so that they don't feel like they're just kind of a castaway while you're getting your work in, but they know that they're a priority because that date, you both have something to look forward to. Whenever we have something to look forward to, it kind of helps us get through the week. Per people say, this has been really tough, but I know we going out tonight, we're gonna have a good time. And so that can be a way to deal with stress. The other one is taking a time out. You know, with a time out in an intense conversation that's stressful, if you take a time out, the person that calls a time out has to re-engage or reinitiate that conversation, right? So after like 20 or 30 minutes, because one person is generally going to call the time out more than the other, and the other person really wants to talk about it, so that person needs to re-engage and initiate that conversation. But calling the time out, you know, helps it so it doesn't escalate, gives you both a chance to really bring down the temperature a little bit, have a more reasonable conversation.
I think that's a good suggestion. The problem is I'm argumentative. So if Bilal called a timeout in the middle of me saying something, I'm going to be pissed about that. But I have to respect it though, you know? So I have to respect it. But it's just going to be annoying because I want to take care of the thing. Like I want to get it done and over with. And I think that's a really good, I mean, I really like that suggestion. It would just be annoying when I'm not the person calling the timeout.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, that's why that person that calls it has to come back and have that conversation, because like you mentioned, that other person is chomping at the bit, you know, really waiting for it. So building that trust when he comes back each time, and you know he's going to come back, will hopefully relieve some of that tension that you have while you're waiting.
Yeah. I really like that idea, the timeout. George, what do you think about that?
I just want to know, like, how important of the role of your support group or your mate, like how important is that a part of your journey as far as even entering therapy or trying some of these new, you know, these new recipes, like regarding, you know, combating stress? You know, how important is that? Do they have to be aware of it, or can you just isolate and regroup and just put your cape back on?
I mean, ideally, you would have connections and community to help you support you through it. If you don't have that, then you know, then you would make that choice apart from community. But ideally, you would have people supporting you through it and sort of cheering you on while you're doing it. And so, when it comes to like therapy, having a spouse or somebody, or any relationship, you know, having people in your corner. Some of us just don't have that, and so if we don't have that, I would never suggest that we just kind of put our heads down and keep at it. But I think sometimes we just in situations where we don't have a tribe and we don't have those people to really back us up. And hopefully if you go and see a therapist, that therapist will be part of that like community of care for you and be that person that can really cheer you on and support you through things.
Right. Because what I talked to a couple of brothers about this, and you know, like a lot of brothers that I'm dealing with now, we pretty much was kind of hard headed back in the day and kind of going through the transformation of like being a community leader. And it takes a lot of rebranding and a lot of self-awareness and, you know, basically a lot of just owning up to things, you know, and just admitting things to yourself, the possible truths. The problem, what I'm noticing with a lot of brothers what's causing stress is that everybody wants to identify with the old person that they're escaping from or they escape.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just spouse related, it's like neighborhood, it's friends, it's mothers, it's everybody that already molded, you know, they're already molded to the way that they're used to you know, being, or a certain way of how they usually deal with you. And a lot of brothers is having these isolation issues, like where they feel like they isolated because nobody wants to accept them for the path that they on and the transformation. So this brother was like, it's weighing heavy on him. I mean, he's been calling on his spiritual, you know, been doing a lot of things, and he just said it's really not working. He stopped drinking. It's a lot of things, but it's like nobody wants to accept him. So it's just like, I suggested him, you know, that he talked to you or whatever. And I told him that that's probably like a level of therapy that you probably would need. So,
Yeah.
you know, what would you say to that type of brother? Like, right now?
I would tell him first that I can relate. You know, I remember being in college and I started making some changes. Morgantown, West Virginia is very different than Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came back home, I remember having an interaction and I didn't respond like I typically would. And people really close to me called me soft. I wanted to revert back and, you know, like I'm not soft, you know. And so, but I realized in that same moment that that's the way of recognizing my change. It's like, well, I've changed and I wanted to change. And so I had to reinterpret the words a little bit. And that was helpful to me personally. It's just to reinterpret the words. But I think the second thing that I would add to it is, you know, unfortunately, growth is lonely. You know? And so it's a very lonely endeavor. If you're doing something together, like everybody can talk about doing it, but once you actually do it, it's a lonely endeavor. Like you leave people when you grow. And so you might want to attach yourself to people that are where you are and try to find those communities. And so you can feel like, you know, like I have some people that are here to support me. You might also use some what I call like assertive communication, where you just express what it means to you to be where you are and for people to respect that. So some people will get it, some people won't, you know, but you definitely want to find those communities that will support you. And as I mentioned before, you know, connect with a therapist. If not a therapist, connect with a group. Like in different religious groups, you have groups of people who are supporting that. You know, you want to be somewhere where people can affirm where you are. So that's what I would recommend to him.
Wow, that's big.
That was good. Yeah, that was really good. Leadership is lonely. Leader is lonely at the top. I wanted to kind of come back as we close to talk a little bit about the comment you made about being soft and how guys could look at having a therapist as being soft, or taking some deep breaths is soft, or mindfulness could be looked at as being soft. So what would you say to that narrative?
Yeah, you know what, that I get it, because I would recommend it to people and I wasn't doing it, you know, journaling and like mindfulness. I'm good.
Right.
You know? It was so hypocritical.
Wow.
Right. I was telling people how beneficial it was to research this. And then I would go out and not do it the next day. I just felt like certain things weren't for me specifically. And then I got into a place where, you know, things were really difficult. I was like, well, I'm gonna just try it. And so I would encourage people, you know, to just try it. You don't have to be in pain. If part of your mantra, your identity, and if being whatever the opposite of soft is to be in pain, you just need to rebrand strength. You know, we got to rethink about what that looks like. If I have to be in pain in order to do it, I don't want to do it.
Wow, that's deep.
Rebrand what strength looks like.
Right.
That's good.
Right. Right.
That's
That's good
good.
stuff. That's good stuff. We're gonna have to write that down, Doc. That's gonna be one of our
Yeah,
little.
we got to do a whole new logo,
Yeah.
branding, slogan.
Right.
Ryan, that was good. That was good. Well, thanks so much for being here today and for letting us learn from you and for sharing some tips on what we all can do to manage stress a little better in our lives, because it's not going anywhere. So we just need to have the tools to get through for sure. Now, anyone that wants to connect with Ryan, his information is on the screen. I also wanted to mention that I heard today that Megan Thee Stallion has a new website out. Dr. Thomas put it in the chat. It is badbitcheshavebaddaystoo.com.
Okay.
So y'all can check out that website, and there's tons of resources on mental health. So tons of mental health resources on that site. So if you're looking for therapists, if you're looking for strategies, if you just want to learn more about the topic, stress management and everything mental health is there. So kudos and shout out to her for bringing light to this and for bringing her followers and making them aware of the importance of having these conversations. That's huge. That's big.
Wow.
We are planning to do a COVID and flu clinic at Homecoming this year in a couple weeks, October 22nd. So we'll be out there. We will see you there. If anyone has been waiting to get vaccinated or to get a booster, we'll have COVID shots and boosters, and we should have flu shots. The flu shot part isn't confirmed yet, but we should have flu shots too. So we will take care of your health needs as we party at Homecoming.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all we got for today's show. Make sure you tune in next week, same time, same place. We are kicking off Breast Cancer Awareness Month next week with a very special guest, one of our own CMPradio.net sisters. Leslie will be on sharing her testimony. So tune in next week and we'll see you then.
I appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you, bro. Have a good one.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, Doc.
All right. See y'all.
All right.
And so I think it's important that you understand the clinical trial process. I'm not saying that the pill is bad. I just want you to think about how to make health decisions for yourself.